NFL Week 12 betting market outlook live from New York City. I'm Brett Matthew at Deep Value Better with my co-host Judah Fortgang at Throw the Damn Ball. Thanksgiving week, 3 games kicking off tomorrow. So I know as people kind of listen to this, games are already going to be starting. So let's get right into it. Let's look at week 11 drive quality scoreboard. Some interesting scores this time around. What we were just talking about a little bit offline was Browns, Bills. According to drive quality earned points, Browns 33, Bills 32. And this was one of those where when we were live betting, we had a very successful live betting weekend. One of our most successful of the season. But Bills was one of those games that we actually didn't make any money on, didn't place any bets on. And normally this would be the case where we would be buying the dip on a team like the Bills. As soon as you get any sort of discount on an elite team like the Bills, we're going to try and take advantage of it. And we were kind of hesitant the whole time. In fact, there was a little while we were like flirting with maybe we should start taking some Browns. Oh, Browns is getting a little attractive.
Yeah.
And we can see at the time-weighted average margin, Browns just -3. Time-weighted average win probability, 36%. So the final score makes it seem a little bit like, the Bills kind of wiped the floor with the Browns. But that wasn't really the case at all. And certainly from a drive quality perspective, says the Browns played better net-net.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And it does do a really good job of bringing me back to, Sunday during the stream. And I was like really debating, do I bet the Browns? Do I not? And I certainly had a lot of caution with betting the Bills. Also there are a bunch of I think pretty noteworthy scores. It might come as, I guess, a little less sexy, but like Washington barely kind of beat the Texans.
Yeah.
At least by our drive quality. They really helped out by a pick six. And I think the narrative is like, oh, Washington's won a bunch of games in a row. Houston's really bad. And like Washington took care of business. And the time weighted average was certainly much larger. It was 14. The game wasn't close in that sense, but it wasn't because the Washington was playing so well. So I'd maybe pump the brakes a little bit on some Washington optimism. Let's remember who's playing quarterback. And even though they might be at 500, I still don't think they're a particularly great team.
Yeah, I like that drive quality kind of reinforced this live betting notion as well, because there was a series where I was kind of pitching, hey, maybe should we take some Texans? And it wasn't because it's like, oh, man, the Texans look so great. But it was like Texans double digits. It was like out to +14, +17. And it wasn't like Washington really was doing anything. They got that like one turnover, the pick six or like fumble six or something like that, like early on. But Washington didn't look good. And this is why I think like this drive quality model is, especially over the course of the season, is really providing a lot of value, because this matches the eye test. This is what you would have kind of wanted to see is, man, Washington didn't look good. I mean, the Texans didn't look good either, but I mean, Washington still ended up winning by double digits. This says they just barely squeaked it out. So you looked at the earned points over realized, -10 points. So basically said they scored 10 more points than their drives on a drive-by-drive basis actually justified them scoring.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's kind of illuminating there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. Even just I guess reinforcing more the good side of the bets, like the Bears. We have them handily beating the Falcons? And we were talking about we had an incredible day live betting. I had by far my best day of the season. And I was still with the thinking how much better it would have been. Obviously, I at length talked about the tilt from the last second Rams field goal. But just like, what if the Bears actually came out with that game? And our drive quality says they probably should have, or at least were the better team moving the ball.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a great point. Actually, this is how good of a live betting weekend that we did have, because I was so tilty on that Bears game, but I actually forgot. I forgot that was like one of the biggest losers that we had, in
Yeah.
fact. And I just love this. The fact that drive quality is again saying the Bears should have won that game decisively by a full touchdown.
Yeah.
And basically reinforcing that those live trades that we took on the Bears, which were deep out of the money too. I mean, we had the +3.5, +125, which did covering, but those deeper, I think, +210, +310 money lines ended up not cashing. And I think maybe we had a -5.5 in there as well. If the Bears would have pulled it out, which again, on a drive-by-drive basis, saying that the Bears ended up still playing better than the Falcons, those were good bets.
Yeah.
And that's why when you want to go back and reverse engineer why you did what you did, drive quality gives us a really good sense of how we want to grade our live bets. And this says even our losses were really well timed and really well executed and kind of good decisions.
Yeah.
So love it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of I think encapsulating really all the bets. I'm looking at the Raiders too. Right, who did win?
Yeah, Raiders 25, Broncos 19.
Yeah, and just like your Jets Patriots under 7-3 wasn't even close. The last note I'll make, I think, on this, aside from our bets,
also Eagles.
I was about to say the Eagles, just from a football perspective. And another interesting discrepancy in the time-weighted average versus earned points, where we have it as 72% of the game that the Colts were leading, but the Eagles were still by far the better team. And I think this is, more so, people are really selling the Eagles. I just love the total short-term vision, just totally captured by the moment, where for 9 weeks everyone was saying, oh, the Eagles are the top team in the NFC. They're kind of maybe a step below the Bills and Chiefs, but they're in their own tier. And now all of a sudden it's no, Niners and Cowboys. Cowboys won by 40. It's have we totally lost sight of the big picture here? Are we just going to ignore the 9 weeks because they put in a couple stinkers, as if teams don't put in stinkers all the time, as if we didn't talk about that this matchup could actually be particularly tricky. I just short-term results are noisy. Especially when the 17-16 was the final score, and probably doesn't actually reflect the fundamentals behind it. And I think drive quality does a great job kind of reminding us and putting us in our place in our long-term perspectives.
Yeah. Eagles 24, Colts 17, decisively winning, covering even one of the -6.5. So not only should they not have only just barely squeaked out a win, some people saying obviously, they shouldn't have even won that game. They actually should have won the game and covered the game, in fact. And yeah, when we go back to our preseason previews, we know that it's not a straight line up for the good teams, not a straight line down for the bad teams. There's going to be choppiness. There's going to be kind of false head fake trends that you see over the course of the season. But I think we've certainly seen enough from the Eagles to say that they're playing well. They're a good team. They're a top 5 team for sure. What I would say, the caveat there is, the Eagles' run defense has looked susceptible. The last couple weeks, starting with that Texans game.
Yep.
But again, teams are going to go through peaks and valleys over the course of the season.
That's right. And I think it's a good point. It's actually something I just talked about on the PFF forecast, about kind of the game script is out for how to beat the Eagles, which I think just adds to the handicap, and we can talk about that when we talk about the Packers Eagles game.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our Week 12 consensus industry analyst market power rankings. Looking at the power rankings from ESPN, PFF, 538, Football Outsiders, and InPredict. Equal weighting those power rankings and giving us a general sense of how the market writ large is evaluating these teams. So we look at the top 5. Chiefs number 1, Bills number 2, Cowboys up 2 spots to number 3, Eagles down a spot to 4, Ravens down a spot to 5. And then to round out the top 10, you have Niners, Bengals, Bucks, Dolphins, and the Titans sneaking in to the top 10. And the Vikings falling out of the top 10, down 2 spots to number 11. Anything stick out to you here, Judah?
From the top 10, no. I think it maybe just reinforced the point about the Eagles. That like even though the steam is certainly pushing down the Eagles, I think just a bunch of the models that we like have here and a bunch of these media companies have kind of suggested the Eagles are probably still rightfully in the top 5. I mean, the Bengals also, I think, a team that's really getting pushed down, and our drive quality certainly has them as one of the best teams in the NFL. And I think this power ranking is right. The only thing I'll add is that like you're looking at the top 10 and it's pretty weak. You can poke holes into basically all these teams.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of points to the picture of where the NFL is at right now. And kind of looking into who's going to be Super Bowl contenders. It's an interesting year. It really is.
Yeah, and I think when we look at the standard deviation, so essentially looking at how much disagreement is there across industry analysts, the higher the number, the more disagreement, the lower the number, the more agreement. And we can see there's generally agreement of kind of the top 5, top 6 teams. There's general agreement over the bottom 3 teams. And then in between, there's a bunch of high numbers, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. So that's saying 8. That means on average, industry analysts disagree where that team should be ranked by 8 spots. So massive deviation there. And we can look at like the usual suspects. Some of the largest industry analyst market disagreements on Jags, on average 8 spots. Seahawks still 6 spots. Vikings 6 spots. Cardinals 6 spots. Colts around 6. Raiders 6. Lions 5.5. Titans 5. Cardinals is one. Drive quality ranked 30th. Right, we're almost a market low. Football Outsiders has the Cardinals ranked 31st, and this is something that we've talked on maybe a few streams now. Is kind of disappointed by the fact that we bet the Eagles so much this year. Not very often live betting. Sometimes we've taken advantage of them starting off slow and kind of playing the trend of the game pretty well. But from a pre-game betting perspective, just being way too optimistic on the Cardinals this season, and in fact, defying our own drive quality model, saying, oh, we're just talking about how smart drive quality is. It knows all this stuff, man. It's ahead of the curve. And then we're fading it on the Cardinals. Drive quality says the Cardinals are one of the worst teams in the NFL. And basically, we're saying, no, it's missing. It's missing something. It doesn't understand DeAndre Hopkins is back. Again, even the game that they won versus the Saints, drive quality said they should have lost.
Yep, 2 pick sixes. That's gonna do a lot. I was thinking the same thing even before you just said all of that. But it's pretty revealing, and I think a good reminder. But also at the same time, it does. I do like that we're not just products of drive quality.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's not as if we're just going to plug in, oh, this is what our numbers say, and that's it. It is important to always dive into the not just the context. I think that's kind of a bad cliche, but understand what's behind that number and sourcing the information and seeing is it possibly missing something? What can we kind of add? I think that's an important reminder.
Yeah, I mean, if the model was so smart, we would just be printing money. Yeah. And that's not always going to be the case. You're going to have to always add the human element, the wisdom, experience, judgment of us as handicappers, as live bettors, traders. But there is a difference between like fading something that it hates
Yeah,
over and over and
sure,
over
sure.
again.
It's like you'd think we'd at least learn our lesson, It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
which we actually did this week because
sure.
I think even you said like it seems like it's time to get the Cardinals. Like 8 points is too much. Drive quality
Yeah.
telling us don't do
Well,
it.
yeah.
And finally, we're like, all right, wait, we can't do it.
Yeah, to be fair, I think that was pricing in Kyler and Hollywood Brown. But yes, I think that was certainly the calculus. It was like, in theory, yes, but there's something missing here that I'm gonna lay off.
Yeah. So some of the biggest weekly changes, we look at the Rams down 6 spots, Giants down 5 spots. So Rams now down to 24. It's actually finally catching up to drive quality. We've been ahead of this trend
Hating them
all season.
all season.
I don't think we've ever bought the Rams all year. In fact, we made a lot of money being on the other side of those matchups.
Yep.
Drive quality ranked 26th. PFF at a market high, still holding on at 18th. This is something we've talked about a lot, kind of every week. PFF seems to be always kind of a market high in the Rams. It's like, oh, there's priors around Matt Stafford. But I mean, those priors are clearly wrong because even when he's playing, he's not good.
Yeah.
And now he's out. So, but Giants to 26th. Those are the two biggest downgrades of the week, and then a flurry of 2s and 1s, usual suspects: Vikings, Jets, Broncos, and then the 1s, Pats. Didn't like their win, of course. Bucks. When did the Bucks had a bye?
Yeah.
So just relative positioning. Were downgraded. And Chargers downgraded 1 spot, which actually that's one we didn't call out on our drive quality, which was also the Chargers beating the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So Chargers 33 to the Chiefs 31. And when you think about it, this makes sense. Like the Chargers were winning the game and the Chiefs had to come storming back in the final. Last kind of classic Patrick Mahomes drive.
Yep.
But I feel like that's already been forgotten. In fact, even after the game, most people are just ripe with all the criticisms about all the things that the Chargers did wrong. And like they got smoked in that game.
Yeah.
Well, they played very competitively. In fact, it could have won the game, no problem.
Yep.
In fact, we're winning the game for most of it. In fact, we were texting a little bit about, again, this was another opportunity to buy Chiefs on the dip. They crossed through the Maginot line, went into underdog territory. I know I bid them. I bought them at like plus 130.
Yeah.
I don't know if it got deeper than that. Maybe it did.
I got a 195.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's where I waited.
But I was texting him like, is this like an auto bet by the Chiefs? And it's like, well, it's like wait 1 drive still, because it was like coming out of halftime and Chargers, I think, were getting the ball first. But yeah, I mean, that wasn't one that we were obviously on stream, given it was like primetime game and stuff. But that was like just a very nice kind of cherry on top close.
Yep.
To just waterfall profits.
And taking advantage of something we've said all year, which is not trusting the Chargers late in games.
Yeah. It was a 2-sided live trade.
Yep.
This is the other thing that actually what makes live betting so profitable, just so much better, is, when we were trying to build some SGPs for this Chiefs Chargers game, one of the things we really liked was leaning into like Tony props.
Yeah.
And the dude doesn't even play. And when he does play, then he gets hurt.
Yep.
And it's like, you can't forecast that. Like that is a gamble in itself. It's like, well, how much field time is he going to see and when's he going to see it? And then obviously potentially getting hurt.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're in the game, when you're watching the game, you're trying to take advantage of price dislocations and the market just feeding into whatever is happening in the moment. And you, as a trader, can see past that, forecast, and buy the twists and turns, and then take advantage of that. Like, that is just, one, it's more fun. And it's like, there's always an element of gambling, it's uncertainty, buying volatility, of course. But it's like, again, it's just gambling on gambling, the whole pregame betting concept. And it's just one of the reasons I think also, too, I think it's very clear that we are good at what we do, I definitely consider us sharps. And yet, nonetheless, on a pregame perspective in Circa, I mean, we're getting our faces ripped off this season.
Yep.
It's basically because we just can't forecast like what the coach is going to do and how the game is going to play out before even seeing anything even start to happen.
Yeah. I've been like playing a pick'em league with like my buddies for years. I've always been pretty bad. I shouldn't say pretty. I'm like at like 51% usually. Like you gotta know your skill set. That's like I think that's actually an important broad point about betting, which is like don't just like bet the things that everyone else is betting. Like don't just bet spreads and totals because that's the thing that has the most content or the most information. Like you have a certain process. And like you have to kind of lean into the way you think and how that eventually materializes in bets. Like I think I'm pretty good at like these long shot odds. Like that's where I succeed, and that's how I'm positioning myself week in and week out, and in live betting, of course. I haven't bet one spread or total the entire year, not one.
Pre-game.
Yeah,
and that's just, and it's not even to say that because again, we're definitely going to do Circa again next year because it's an attractive contest. The odds are in your favor, especially when there's a huge overlay. But it's just the volatility, the variability of what your performance is going to be relative to your skill set is just so much wider in pregame betting. And that's why you can see people who are good at this, people who dedicate their lives to this. This is their day job. Have bad seasons, go 44%. Like to me, like how can that even be possible?
Yeah.
It's like, it's because the skill is just a smaller portion of the overall calculus about predicting performance in pregame betting. In live betting, skill is a much bigger proportion of the overall calculus of actually predicting, performance. And that's why, I mean, I just can't wait for betting to continue to get more and more popular. Markets continue to get more and more liquid, more and more options come available to us. Because I know, again, we're not always going to have weekends like we had this past weekend. In fact, the previous two ones were like, they're like, okay, like pretty good. And I think maybe 2 or 3 weekends ago, maybe it was like 2 weeks ago. It was like, for me, I know it was like basically flat, like spent all day trading and basically didn't make anything. So there's not every weekend's going to be good, but if we keep having really good weekends, I mean, that is when we're going to start, I imagine, going to have less options at our disposal over time because books are going to basically take the keys away from us.
I hope not.
All right, let's go into NFL Week 12. Especially start off with the games that are kicking off in about 14 hours from now. Ooh. Bills, Lions. And actually, I'm going to have to be up early tomorrow because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Normally going into the Sunday or the kickoff, like I'm waking up like 5 minutes before. I'm like drinking a coffee for the very first time. Like, Judah, what happened so far? Like, how did the lines change? Who's playing? Where are they playing? But tomorrow, here, this is 6th Ave behind me. And so we're having people over tomorrow. Macy's Day Parade. It's going to be happening right behind me.
Oh.
So I'm going to have to.
We need parades every Sunday to.
Yeah, I know.
Get you up in the morning.
Yeah.
I can organize.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and make a better effort of this next season, being in a better position to get to bed earlier on Saturday nights. All right, Bills, Lions. Bills -9.5 in Detroit. Obviously, the Lions, classic Thanksgiving team. Do it every single year. It's usually versus the Bears. In fact, that's when I actually do enjoy the Thanksgiving games. I mean, I always enjoy them, but I do have a special kind of interest because it's usually Lions, Bears being my team. And no Bears this Thanksgiving. This was at 10.5. Now creeping through that 10. Obviously, the Lions been playing better as late. Lions were not upgraded by the market on a week-to-week basis. Still 29th, in fact. ESPN has them at 20th. Football Outsiders at a market high at 16th. But the Lions are getting healthier. Is Jameson Williams finally going to make an appearance? Maybe not this week, but maybe next week.
Yeah.
I know DJ Chark is supposed to be coming back.
Yeah, he played last week. He was eased into snaps. They have weapons at their disposal.
Yeah.
And I think pretty quietly, the Bills' defense has really struggled, especially on pass defense. And I don't know if Greg Russo will be back for this one, but like they in the past couple of weeks have like a bottom 5 pass defense by EPA. And like we know the Lions can score on offense.
Yeah.
With that said, the defense is so horrendous. They're going to be missing Jeff Okudah, who's been the one corner who's been serviceable. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Armani Oruwariye. Is the single worst cornerback by a metric I've built. Successful coverage over expected, along with Arjun. And just like your standard PFF grade, he is the single worst cornerback. He's going to be forced back into starting duty. I mean, the pass defense is dreadful. And I think that's like, the Bills are going to take advantage of that. I think they'll be able to score at will. They'll be able to pass the ball. The Lions, rush defense is nothing special. They're getting James Cook involved. They're getting Devin Singletary involved. I don't really see how they're going to slow him down. I just wouldn't be. I would be pretty surprised if the Bills completely shut down the Lions and it's a 48-3 type game.
Yeah, what we have the total at here, 54 and a half. So definitely pretty elevated. The highest total on the board actually for the week by far. In fact, no other 50s even on the board. No 49s on the board. No 48s on the board. So definitely supposed to be fireworks in this one. Yeah, I don't feel strongly about it from a pregame perspective. Yeah. I think it was very critical, probably going through the 10.
Yeah, I've got one bet.
Yeah,
I've got one bet. I like a Josh Allen 274 passing yards. Maybe even.
Is this an SGP?
This is an SGP. This is the really what I'm leaning into. Pre-games because it's only available pre-game. Just give me a Bills minus 6.5. Josh Allen to go over 274, which is a little less than his passing prop. You can get that at plus 195.
And why? So you think you want to go under Allen because you think that?
I think the Bills are going to. Okay, I think they're going to be able to pass the ball at ease against the Lions. Yeah. I think like Gabe Davis will hit some explosive plays. I'm not really comfortable. This is my standard bet size. I'm not really comfortable making a huge SGP here or with 3 or 4 outcomes. I'm looking for 2 things, which is like the Bills I think are going to win solidly, but I don't think it's going to get out of hand. And like they're going to do it passing the ball. The Bills throw. They've got the highest, maybe it's the second highest pass rate over expected. Second highest pass rate over expected, 9%. We know they like to throw. They'll have their way. I think Josh Allen will get to his passing prop at least. 275 is nothing against this defense. And I think it builds in a solid cushion, like getting on the other side of 7. But plus 195, it's not even like it's a pretty juicy odds.
Yeah.
And I'd be surprised if the Bills just ran their entire way to this game. And I think the Lions will be able to keep up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can see, too. I mean, there's been some reading into the Lions' defensive resurgence, or at least not being completely miserable.
Yeah.
And we can see that, they still actually didn't play well, as you were talking about, from a coverage perspective. We're still one of the worst last week. It's just, the Giants receivers are not good and banged up. Yeah. And were continuing to get banged up over that course of that game. Wan'Dale Robinson went out. I think he's out for a couple weeks now. Yeah, no, I like the angle. I wish I would have seen from our market consensus power rankings the Lions being upgraded.
Yeah.
Materially. We haven't seen that. So that makes me a little bit cautious. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit of buying into Lions getting through the 10.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think the most important thing in the context you just brought it up is the impredict, which is like what's the actual spread ranking, and they're 24th, which would be a pretty. They're not 24th. It's subsequently updated, but that's a pretty significant move.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And just a note: these are compiled earlier in the week, and obviously spreads are pretty dynamic and are constantly changing. So the impredict rankings do change on account of that, but yeah, I think they rightfully so have kind of moved up a bit.
And actually, I misspoke earlier too. ESPN has the Lions ranked 28th. Football Outsider still market high at 16th, but in fact, Drive Quality is the one that has the Lions ranked 20th. So we're still definitely tilted towards overweight Lions relative to the broader market. Broader market consensus ranking is 29th.
Yeah. I also, Greg Russo is out, which I think certainly helps. He's been a pretty good pass rusher this year.
Okay, let's go. I think this is. I definitely want to dive more into this one when it comes to SGP, especially given, this is a higher total game. You could potentially see some interesting stuff happening. Those are the types of games you obviously want to lean in.
Yeah, I wrote one up for BFF,
Nice.
so we can you can go check out and dive into. But yeah, these games are always fun for SGPs.
All right, the next Thanksgiving game, Giants at the Cowboys. Giants totally banged up, plus 10, reduced juice, leaning to 10.5, over under 45.5. This is one of those games where I feel like there's one narrative. Everyone knows the narrative. And so for that reason, like everyone's betting for the exact same reason that I can't bet the Cowboys here. Certainly not from a pregame perspective.
Yeah, I just think you wait and see. I mean, look, there's definitely a possibility that meaning I think what you're saying is true to an extent. Especially if Andrew Thomas doesn't play, like if your entire offensive line is weak links, right? They've just ruled out 4 starting offensive linemen against the number 1 pass defense. Like it could get totally out of hand to kind of like Tampa Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl levels, except that the quarterback's Daniel Jones and not Patrick Mahomes. It's like you literally might not be able to do anything. And the angle, I think, it's not even the sacks. It's like the Giants' run game's not going to get going if they're starting backup offensive linemen the entire way.
Yeah. And again, I just feel like why isn't this moving out way higher?
Yeah, I agree.
Because again, what you just said, that's what I'm saying. Like that is why anyone would be like, why you couldn't bet the Giants. It's like the whole offensive line is gone.
Yeah.
The wide receivers are banged up.
Yeah.
They already have difficulty scoring points to begin with. The Cowboys are red hot. They just look like a Super Bowl team versus the Vikings.
Yeah.
They're getting upgraded by the market. They're still a top 5 team. It's only 10.
Yeah. But like, why wouldn't you wait and see? Like, just take a couple drives and see how the pass protection's holding up.
Well, and also too, we've seen this year as well, where it's like, wow, I guess it was that simple.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I guess that was all it needed was a simple handicap. Fact.
Speaking of a simple handicap, we really jumped on the Daniel Jones passing props last week.
Yeah.
And again, this is a point I just made, but like his passing prop is still 200 yards right now. Right, it's still priced in for the game script of Giants playing in because it's using his season-long averages. That's how these prop markets are derived. What happens if he falls into a pass game script? Like, it's not as if the Giants are gonna
you're gonna have to be
Falcons it. Yeah. If they go down and the passing prop is still 200 and he's throwing the ball 46 times, he's going to throw more than 200 yards. And Darius Slayton is going to be the recipient of those targets, assuming he stays healthy.
In
right?
fact, I
And
actually wouldn't mind waiting on it and doing it live with the
well, that's what I'm saying.
expectation. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like you want the advantage of the live game script to know that the passes are coming. And if you want to take advantage of the Cowboys defense, take the sack props live when you know that Jones is actually going to be dropping back to pass. Right?
Yep.
Like if it's in a game script where that's happening, go buy the Micah Parsons live. Go buy they're not offering Lawrence, but go buy Darrence Armstrong live.
Yeah, Daniel Jones passing yards, 195
Yeah. It's the same
right
thing as it
now.
was last week. And it's gonna be slow to adjust. But like if you if the game is, 10-0 early in the second quarter and the Cowboys have the ball, it's just like go bet Daniel Jones over passing props. If you throw the ball 45 times,
Yep.
you're gonna
Yeah,
get 200 yards.
we bet a lot of props this year. Especially when you're lining up SGPs, like you got to throw a prop related bet in there to really juice it up.
Yeah.
But that's not something I would say that we've necessarily done a ton of research in, or
It's
have kind of planned tools to really
yeah,
take advantage of that. But that is definitely something for next year,
a
because
sneak yeah,
exactly to your point, like the fact that how the market is pricing it is basically just a pure
it's an
like
average,
arithmetic.
a median, yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually, to give a little sneak peek, something I was working on today, because I actually had some time to work on it. It was wonderful. He's looking at tendencies of quarterbacks in the situation like team is down, right? Who does quarterback go to on third downs? Who are they going to? Team facing the blitz, facing pressure, etc. And kind of seeing based on this matchup, can we kind of get some prop edges based on quarterback tendencies and who they're going to look to at receiver?
Yeah.
Because in theory there should be there, right? Like you're relying on Justin Jefferson on third down, like that's a thing, that's real, it exists.
Yeah.
So that's something I've been looking into, and hopefully can start to leverage over the last couple of weeks of the season.
I think like another huge element too of a huge advantage of live betting is, again, we talk about like, because you need to wait and see what the team's potential game script is going to be. And like another even more granular example of that is Daniel Jones rushing. And it's like, if you see him do a couple of those bootlegs and they're kind of working, then it's just like, wow, then just like hit the over on Daniel Jones rushing, because like they're going to be leaning into that. And it's like those types of things, like you don't know if that's part of the game plan. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I loved Zach Wilson rushing yards versus, I can't remember who it was. Patriots. Oh yeah, because it was like right after like a couple of teams, like Lamar Jackson did it, Justin Fields did it, and my pregame prognostication was that the Jets would try to exploit that potential weakness of the Patriots, and they didn't. They didn't even try. So like I had to bet the fact that that was even part of their game plan, and then even if it was part of their game plan, that he would actually then still be able to execute and actually get over the yards. It's a compounded bet, worst possible, and also the odds aren't compounded. It wasn't like plus 400,
Yeah.
And that's why you also made a great call when we were live betting. That was, I went to go look at his live odds. His over under rushing was like 2.5 yards, which is basically just like, is he going to rush even once?
Yeah.
And it was like at this point in time, you're like, no, don't take it, because it's not part of the game script.
Yeah.
Like you thought it was gonna be a part of the game script. It wasn't part of the game script, so it's over. Like the bet is dead. Like now if he gets it, it's just like random luckiness. But the handicap was wrong. And so don't try to now force that issue. And yes, some of the
It's
great elements of live betting.
yeah. The common thread and theme is just like live betting allows for more information. And that's kind of crucial as a better.
Yeah. And also, and it especially rewards those who are adept at deciphering kind of what's going on in the game. And again, have the moxie, patience, discipline in order to be able to forecast how things are going to potentially play out, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Patriots, Vikings, Patriots +3 juiced. Over under 42. Vikings, Darashaw's out. I think their quarterbacks are now banged up pretty materially. edging towards that 2.5, but still hanging at 3 on DraftKings. I think I don't know. I don't know.
Yep, that's my reaction.
I want to say Patriots, but then I feel like am I kind of like late? Like obviously everyone kind of hates the Vikings now, but actually the thing is when we look at the market power rankings, they weren't really downgraded that much even.
No, but
I mean, you hear like a lot of negative sentiment. Yeah, they were very
never that high to begin with. Yeah, I think I'm mostly with you on the. I'm certainly not playing anything pregame. The one angle I'd have is like Minnesota has been really good scripted. This was true last week, by the way. They failed, I think, a fourth down deep in territory and like kicked the field goal in their opening drive. But like they were moving the ball well on their first 2 drives. I think like that's a time to bet the game under. If the total kind of gets to 45, 46, 47 away from 42. That's only the only angle I'll be like thinking of to play. But it's just like an ugly game. You don't know what the Patriots like. You don't know what you're going to get with the Patriots. You don't know what you're going to get with Mac Jones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and this one's late in the day. Could put everyone to bed.
Yeah.
This is the closer of the evening after everyone's already stuffed. Yeah, nothing. I mean, unless you wanted to play like an unders SGP, which are never fun.
Yeah, I played the SGP. I played was TJ Hawkinson. I think it was like 60 yards and a touchdown. Just kind of playing the matchups there, and like I'm not necessarily buying into the like Bill Belichick takes away your number 1 option, blah blah blah. Like the Patriots have been really good against receivers. Kirk Cousins has given TJ Hawkinson 9, 10, and 9 targets. They allow a bunch of touchdowns in the red zone. I think that's structural. And like Ramondre Stevenson has very quietly taken over the role of lead back. And like we're all looking for something to play on Thanksgiving night. And I took his touchdown and his receiving yards. He's been really involved in the passing game, 6 to 8 targets each week, like independent of game script, which I think suggests that like they're going to be giving him the ball. Got some really juicy odds. It's like +4. It's like 40 to 1. That's my play. We all need to play to end the day on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Finding the slim pickings that there is to try to take advantage of something in this.
Yeah, I have the bet.
That's the other thing is actually, now that I think about it too, is like, again, like under SGPs just aren't going to be as attractive just from a mathematical perspective, because you can't be like, unless you're like, you'd have to say like, oh, this person's going to literally do nothing.
Yeah, it's also like, it's mathematical, meaning they're theoretically infinite number.
You can't go past 0.
Yeah, exactly. There are infinite number of yards you can get on the upswing. There are defined numbers of yards you can get on the down.
Yeah, and you can't get lucky and get 150 yards. You can get lucky and get like 6.
Yeah,
and like go past the 0.
I also think like unders would theoretically be attractive. It's also like they're not really available. Like you can push at lines on FanDuel to like 80 on a receiver to get 100 yards. That doesn't exist on the downswing, at least not yet.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the main slate, and we got Texans, Dolphins, Texans +13.5 with Kyle Allen at quarterback. 47 is the total. I like Kyle Allen, first of all. Like, I think that is the only upgrade is the fact that, or the only non-upgrade I would say is like, obviously hasn't played all year. I don't know necessarily the chemistry with the particular wide receivers, the team writ large. I don't know also if the Texans are even trying to win.
That's the key, I think. I have really no idea if the Texans are trying to win.
And also the Dolphins are a team that can just take your head off.
Yeah, so they can score 40 easily. Not taking either side of this game.
Yeah, no, yeah. I would take Dolphins. I mean, like, again, like when we were live betting versus commies, I was potentially interested in taking Texans +2 touchdowns versus a team like the commies, who, again, aren't going to take your head off. But the Dolphins have that capacity. This is like danger territory if it doesn't go right.
I agree with that.
Total does seem high though, 47. I mean, unless the Dolphins are going to score all of them.
Well, I
And
think
we
that.
know,
Yeah.
we know the Dolphins though have put in games throughout. In fact, we've been a little bit hesitant from time to time. Again, we've like leaned into SGPs and stuff like that because the odds are insane without even necessarily thinking that they might score a lot of points. But it's just like it skews like, well, if that game script does play out, then this is definitely going to hit.
Yeah.
But the Dolphins have put in clunkers also. And do they really want to show a lot of playbook versus the Texans as 2 touchdown favorites? Like Tua's already been injury prone, got himself in bad positions. They don't want to have to deal with that again. Like get in, get out. Why showboat?
Yeah. I mean, their kind of poor games have been without Tua, which is the only kind of caution I'd give.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, the Texans, at least their strength has been their secondary so far, which in theory could stop the Dolphins. I just don't see that happening. Hill and Waddle are too good. They're too dynamic. It's not something I'm really interested in betting at all.
Mm-hmm. Dolphins minus 23.5 plus 289. In fact, you go out to 20. You could just take another 3 points. 26.5, 409. If this is going to be a game that's like 36-10.
Yeah, it's possible.
Which 36-10 would put you right at that expected total as well.
Right.
Oh yeah, and our injury analyst chiming in here. Thank you, Dan.
This is why we need Dan. When we're without Dan, we're just helpless. We're lost.
Yeah, just totally ignoring all injuries. Yeah, so Stingley out for the Texans, or at least questionable. And dealing with a hamstring, I mean, if you're dealing with a hamstring, those things linger. You're not going to be 100% no matter what.
Yeah.
So yeah, just another reason not to even really flirt with Texans and points. Bears at Jets. Bears +6 reduced juice lean to 6.5. Over under 38.5. A bunch of questions around Justin Fields. Probably not going to play. I think that's what this line's telling us. Going to be Danny Simeon, unless his upgrade is Mike White, which that's would be ridiculous in my opinion.
Trevor Simeon's the Bears backup?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. Yeah, I mean, on either side, I would like this with Fields for sure. But backing a Jets team with Mike White, I mean, I guess in theory,
I don't think Mike White is necessarily a downgrade per se.
Not a downgrade.
He's an upgrade.
He's not a downgrade over Zach Wilson. And here's the thing. The Jets, I trust the Jets kind of infrastructure, as we've talked about all year, basically. Meaning, I like the offensive coordinator. They have good weapons. I think Mike White kind of can do a good job executing a very easy game plan that's handed to you. I don't know if he can do it over the long term, and I think defenses might adjust. But in the short term, he can definitely put together patches, especially against a really dreadful Bears defense. But again, I want to see it. Well, just take the information, see how Mike White looks. Does he look comfortable? Is he making throws? He put together a good, obviously that great game against the Bengals and had a good quarter against the Colts before he got hurt. But there's a reason he wasn't starting, and there's a reason he didn't start the first couple of games of this season.
Joe Flacco. I was always so shocked that they went with Joe Flacco.
So there's probably something there. That's again. Down with a good point about the checkdowns, and it's something again to look at for prop stuff, just like quarterback tendencies. But it's a low total. It's especially with Trevor Simeon, it just seems like an ugly one.
Yeah, and especially if the Jets are still in the playoff hunt, have a lot to play for. The Bears don't.
Yeah.
I think the under here is also very attractive. It seems actually quite high at 38.5. I don't understand the Bears defense is bad. And Trevor Simeon is capable in spots. And again, he's not like dead meat. He's got he can move around.
He's dead meat in this offense, I think.
I mean,
especially
even Justin Fields was dead meat for many weeks.
yeah, but then they finally tailored the offense to Justin Fields. And it's
Yeah.
just like they don't have, especially if they're using anything the same playbook that they've designed for Fields. Simeon can't do that. Yeah, I don't see really. I'd be shocked if Simeon can play against the Jets defense, but it's football. Anything can happen. I've been surprised before.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go with Jets, one, I like the under. In fact, probably even lean into an alt under.
Yeah. And again, I think this is an interesting. I mean, the props aren't out yet.
Yeah.
Like, if you like the Jets to cover 6, I mean, unless you think the run game is going to get going, maybe. But like, you probably think Mike White's going to play at least at expectation. So like, add that to, add his passing prop. It doesn't necessarily have to be an over, but like get to like 75%. He has to play at a certain level if the Jets are going to cover.
Yeah, and this is such a great game for him to play his first game.
Yeah,
I can already see all the tweets about, oh, they should have went to Mike White sooner. Like, we knew it from last season. He was good. Why didn't they start him early? And I mean, he's playing the Bears pass defense, which
Ooh, I might be able to play quarterback for the Jets.
I mean, I'm just so disappointed in the Jets bailing on. I mean, again, Zach Wilson's not looked good. He's made a lot of bonehead decisions. He doesn't look like he's necessarily growing per se. But again, he missed a lot of games last season. He missed games this season. Like, so he's still technically really in barely his first full year, not even yet.
Yeah,
you got to be patient.
Yeah,
especially you're getting a little bit of a vulnerable schedule here where he can show you a little stuff. Like, I think like there's too short-term focus because like, oh, you know, we're 5-3 or whatever, 6-3, whatever they are, and we have a chance to win the division or to go to the playoffs at least, and we wanted to capitalize now on that and sacrifice a much longer term decision and commitment towards Zach Wilson.
It's particularly bad in my view because like, they're not winning the Super Bowl this year.
No,
like, you take the long term perspective. I mean, like, it would really be a disaster, I think, if they went to Flacco. I guess in theory, if like Mike White's still young, but it doesn't make sense. Like,
well, they said that Zach Wilson's the third quarterback right now.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to like almost teach him a lesson. I think it's a weird dynamic. I mean, the team building question is another area in which I'm interested, but it's puzzling. I'm with you, and I think with that said, I think it does. Like, you have to upgrade in the current moment. Like, I think Mike White will be better than Zach Wilson.
Yeah. I like Mike White props, especially in this game. I mean, it's at home too, so favorable environment. You know, no adversity there, no travel, nothing like that.
Yep. It's the worst.
Very good setup. Yeah. And also, again, Justin Fields isn't even on the other side, so you could potentially get into some really favorable game scripts for the offense.
Yeah. And I will say, by the way, if Justin Fields does play, and I don't think it's 100% that he's out, the 6 is pretty attractive, I think, for all the reasons we outlined last week.
Sure. Although I think this will be one of the tougher defenses that Justin Fields played.
Yeah,
for a while.
I think it's a little. I think the matchups matter a little bit less for him, in the sense that like you're really defending a unique skill, which is like a quarterback's rushing ability.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that necessarily translates to the way we traditionally evaluate defenses.
Sure.
But we'll see. And look, we don't even know if he's going to scramble. He looked like a totally different quarterback in the second half of last week.
Yeah, that's true too. Actually, that's a really good point. In fact, I would actually say if he does come back and then the line moves accordingly, that would be a buy the dip on the Jets.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Ravens at the Jags. Ravens -3.5, over under 43.5.
So
the Jaguars are back. The Jaguars had a bye. We couldn't bet them even if we wanted to. Now what? I like the Jags.
You like the Jags?
I like the Jags.
Yeah, you always like the selling the Ravens.
I especially like,
Yeah, the line I think did move a little bit because Lamar Jackson missed practice today with a hip injury. They say he's going to play. Hip injury is concerning. Maybe it's watching too much hockey and seeing too many players' careers really get derailed by hip stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit cautious betting the Jags only because uh, I
I don't
don't
think
think
you need to
Tanner
say
Tanner
why.
Parker, I just like think there's something that I'm missing here. But the Ravens offense has looked bad. We've said it all along, especially with Rashad Bateman, um, that uh, this team is really lacking in weapons. Um, but Demarcus Robinson looked really good, and his statistical profile actually also surprisingly looks very good. He's generating a ton of separation, um, which should in theory be sticky over time. But yeah, I mean, look, our numbers are always going to show value on the Jaguars.
Yeah, we got them still ranked. Drive Quality has Jaguars
Ninth?
ranked 9th.
Yeah.
Market has a Jags ranked 21st. So
Yeah.
huge deviation
And
there.
huge standard deviations also. And again,
Yeah,
our
huge
draft
standard.
quality does not factor into that standard deviation, but it does express the same sentiment.
Yeah. And to my dismay, the Ravens are ranked high by the market, ranked 5th, but also by Drive Quality has the Ravens ranked a little bit lower, 7th. In fact, we are a market low, tied with 538 at 7th. Football Outsiders at a market high, having the Ravens as a top 3 team. There's just been a lot of talk about trying to buy the Ravens, having a weaker schedule going into the end of the season. That I was reading another kind of statistic that, they've blown a couple games this year.
Yeah.
In every single game. In fact, had double-digit lead. And so they could be undefeated. Yeah. But I think if they were undefeated, people would be saying like, wow, this is like the worst undefeated team of all time.
Yeah.
So
they've it's an interesting thing. Like they've run the fewest plays from behind of any team.
Yeah.
Or certainly with the win probability less than 50%. Which is interesting live betting angle, by the way, similar to the Eagles, which is like we don't really know how they're gonna play coming from behind, especially for a team that is lacking in receiving.
Yes.
Depth. And the Jaguars have been good scripted.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the other thing. I mean, again, that was another game that, again, we had a very successful live betting weekend. Ravens was not a part of that. And Ravens was a price that was dripping lower all Sunday. And in fact, there was only a flirtation with potentially taking the Panthers. So, and that's the other thing is also what I've noticed is one of the reasons why I think you can have a good pulse on particular teams is because, we're capturing the moment of the heartbeat of these teams over the course of the Sunday. And I think there is signal in that when you go back and say, all right, Panthers, Ravens at home, I'm now getting 8 points of value on the Ravens into the fourth quarter, and I still don't want to take them.
Yeah.
And yet they're a top 5 team.
Yep. I mean, look,
because you don't trust them. It's like, wow, man, they look bad, and man, when they look bad, they do not look good.
Yeah, you were talking off the Panthers, saying like they can score, which I think goes to hammer the point that like the ceiling still exists in the sense that like they can play up to the top 5. They're just some weeks they don't have it.
Yeah, and then because then also in that Ravens Panthers run, I was like forecasting that one potential but I didn't want to buy Ravens either. Right. But I could Panthers played the Rams really tough for like 3/4 of that game. And then like the Rams kind of extended it in the very end, ended up covering. And it's like, I could have just easily have seen that happen. They still ended up winning by 10. And I think they had the ball like in the final drive. Like there was numerous times in the end too, where they easily could have covered that 13.5. But again, because they were playing so lousy, even on short fields, they couldn't convert any points.
Yeah.
I think there's like so many issues. Like the Ravens just don't even look good to me. Don't even look good. So I guess I'm taking the Jags plus 3.5. The one thing is I do know the Ravens are the type of team also that can like look like crap, and then like the next game then look amazing,
explode.
And the Jags are definitely a team to set them up to do something like that.
Yeah.
I probably actually won't be betting Jags plus 3.5 because the Jags are the type of team we've already learned like you have to live bet this team.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
Bengals, Titans, Bengals -2.5 on the road. Over under 42.5. Very low for a Bengals game. Bengals Steelers was also this low, and we didn't take advantage of it, but it was one of the things we were talking about as we were going into those late games. Like, why is this like total like so low? Is like the
Yeah.
weather shitty, or
Yeah.
in fact,
Yeah,
we should have taken advantage of that, because I guarantee you it was buying into this allure of Steelers defense at home still
Yeah.
being elite in the sense of being able to shut down the Bengals offense.
Yeah. It's
And
okay. I bet so much
I'm surprised
Bengals.
actually you especially weren't screaming
Well,
counter
I
total.
bet so much Bengals, like 5.5. I just kept on betting on Bengals that it's okay
Yeah,
that
that
I
was
had
another
been
big
interested.
winner for us. Yeah.
No, I had worries about the Steelers offense. Yeah, I really like the Bengals on the spot. And
And Jamar Chase could potentially be back.
Chase is back, I think.
Yeah.
According to Joe Burrow, also Chase is back. I mean, Dan, our resident injury specialist, can confirm. Yeah, I really like the Bengals here. I posted a graph today about like how teams fare in expected pass situations. Essentially, like when the defense knows you're passing, how good are the offenses? And like Patrick Mahomes absolutely broke the scale of it. Not the point. Like Joe Burrow's been amazing. He's got a 0.3 EPA and a 50-something% success rate. When the defense knows that you're passing, that's an EP. That's an EPA. That's an MVP type season. Playing to there exactly. And I think that's key for this matchup. Number one, unlike last year, which a main concern was like, are the Bengals even going to pass the ball? Because they were running the ball a ton early in the season, switched to passing like weeks 14. They went on a Super Bowl run afterwards. But also, the Titans have probably the best run defense in the league right now. First in rush EPA, like fourth in yards per carry. And the Bengals are totally fine, as they did last week, abandoning the run. And they're going to pass, and it doesn't matter. Even if the defense knows the pass is coming, they're not going to be able to stop it. The Titans' defense does not in the slightest scare me, especially with Joe Burrow having all of his weapons back.
And Titans are dealing with their own injuries as well.
They are, and like the interior pressure narrative, I don't think makes sense on two fronts. Number one, like Ted Karras and Alex Kappa on the interior have actually been pretty good in pass blocking. And again, this is something we talked about early in the season. It's something we talked about in the off-season preview. Like a team like the Bengals, who had such turnover on the offensive line, it's going to take time to build chemistry. Like when you don't have that continuity factor, you kind of need weeks to build up. And I think their like offensive line is going to get better as the game goes along. I think it's almost the perfect matchup for the Bengals. The Titans do not have the wide receivers, I don't think, to take advantage of the areas where the Bengals are weak. And like our draft Golly's been saying, the Bengals are a superior team. On offense, like we have the Bengals, the fourth best unit, the Titans is the 21st. I just outlined why I think like the defensive rating, which is propping up the Titans, is probably misplaced. Also, like the Titans played two good teams all season. They played the Bills and Chiefs, and everyone else has been a disaster. They haven't been tested at all. I really like the Bengals.
Yeah, especially under the field goal, which I'm actually surprised that it's still hanging around there. It's
They're
juiced. But even still, I think this is, I mean, like we talked about also with talking about the market consensus power rankings, this is the Titans now sneaking into the top 10. I think that's the first time we've seen that all season. 538 has them fourth.
Yep.
PFF has them seventh. PFF has been hotter on
the
Titans this season, been ahead of the curve there. Football Outsiders has them as 12th. Again, even Drive Quality still has them 13th. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
we've been hot on Bengals for sure. Drive Quality has Bengals ranked third.
Absolutely.
And we're a market high there.
Yeah. And you can be sure I'll be running back the same bet I made last week of Bengals alt and Joe Burrow passing.
Yeah.
Just like the Bengals are going to win through the passing game. Like Joe Mixon, even Joe Mixon's out. Like, who cares? They're going to pass the ball, and they're fine to do it. And I think they'll succeed.
And Perrine filled in perfectly fine. The other thing is, like, again, doing those SGPs and just throwing in one kind of high conviction prop, especially with a relatively short money
Yeah.
line like this.
Yeah.
I did the Bengals and T Higgins over,
Yeah.
or it was Joe Burrow over 299.
Yeah.
That pushed it out to plus 400.
Yeah. I got plus 800 on a bet that I mean I hedged off it, but only didn't cash on the last second touchdown.
Yeah.
Plus 800.
Mm.
That's huge odds. And again, I want to emphasize actually this is important. It's not just like throwing in a high conviction prop. It's understanding and sourcing. If the Bengals are going to do X, well, what has to also happen? Which is like,
Yeah.
the Bengals are winning not because of their run game. If they're going to win, if they're going to extend, it's going to be because Joe Burrow is passing the ball. Like, okay, yes, it's like the 10% chance of like a weird thing happening in the run game or like turnovers doing the job. You get like a kick return touchdown. Fine, I'll lose those bets. But like knowing and understanding the team tendencies and kind of how you like build the story of how the Bengals win by 9.5. It's going to happen through Joe Burrow, and the market and the sportsbooks are not calculating that. Right? It's like it's a simple odds calculation. Plus 130 and minus 110 spits out a certain result. And I don't think the correlations are perfect there.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the best advantages of those SGPs is essentially trying to put together correlated plays that all will come together if a particular narrative plays out. And if the narrative doesn't, again, if the narrative plays out, then it's jackpot scenario.
Yeah.
If the scenario doesn't play out, you lose a unit. Big deal.
Yep. Exactly.
Just like any other bet.
Asymmetric odds. Again and again, asymmetric risk.
Falcons plus 4.5 at Washington over under 41. Another pretty low total, even low for 2022.
I have one word.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to probably take the Falcons here.
Yeah.
At 4.5.
I mean, again, it's going back to what I said earlier about the Commanders' love. I think it's misplaced. I think it's a good Circa pick. I think we should definitely consider them for Circa. But I don't want to put my money on the Falcons. No thanks.
Yeah. This is 1-2. What time is it? It's early afternoon. Yeah, this is probably going to be one of those games that we probably kind of ignore.
Yeah.
Unless something really special pops up. Broncos minus 1.5 at the Panthers, led by Sam Darnold.
Uh-oh.
Over
there's still time to cash out your bet.
Well, I mean, again, I posted today that I bet the Panthers to win.
To cash out.
I bet the Panthers to win the NFC South plus 4,000. All right, they're three. First of all, I mean, again, 4,000 is mispriced. They're 3-1 in the division. All right, and they have the tiebreaker with the Bucs, who are one of the biggest competition, and they still have to play the Bucs, and they still have to play the Saints. Like towards the end of the season. The thing is again, it's not like I'm trying to make a case that Sam Darnold is like a secretly good quarterback, but we don't know that he's necessarily going to be terrible this in a 6-game spurt.
You can't get much worse than what Baker Mayfield's been.
That's the other thing is, yeah. And again, the defense has just been playing so gritty.
Yeah.
This is like, I think at plus 4,000, especially in a division that is weak and they were pretty much down on the Bucs. The Falcons still have their own issues. Again, the Saints could definitely still win the division, I think. Drive Quality loves the Saints. Has them still almost as a borderline top 10 team. But again, they all have their own issues. And basically what I'm just rolling the dice here is like, who knows? Maybe Sam Darnold does like some sort of Geno Smith stuff. It's not like they're totally devoid of talent either. I mean, they have a crappy offensive line. They have crappy coaching. They have crappy play calling. But, they still have DJ Moore. Like, I mean, there's weapons here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like the Panthers in this game.
Well, the Broncos are terrible.
And also,
Absolutely.
unlike what we were talking about Mike White having a favorable first game matchup, this is not a favorable matchup for Sam Darnold to come in for the first game,
No.
obviously going against the Broncos defense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm staying away,
Okay.
but yeah.
I
It,
would
it's,
like to
it's-
see what Sam Darnold's like INT props are.
maybe I don't know how often they throw. Um, but here's my play. All right, I'm probably gonna like a Brian Burton sack prop if we can get
Okay.
it against Russell Wilson. But otherwise, I'm laying off. I mean, this also could be a spot of like one of those really deep alternate unders, but there's not so much room to go at a total
That's
of
true.
36. You can get to under
Yeah,
26.
but I mean, hey, we've seen some deep
We've seen
unders this
we've seen some 10
season.
sixers, and this is a spot for a 10 sixer or a 17-10.
Under 27.5 plus 275.
Yeah,
Under
that's
25.5, you get like a
playable,
14 to 10,
especially
14
early.
to 9. I like under the 25.5 plus 389. And then again, like you can get some wackiness that materializes in the end. But again, making it a trade is
Yeah,
either waiting for a drive, seeing if there's an early score, and then taking advantage of a slightly inflated total, and then buying the all under, get a little bit a few extra points. But otherwise, then trying to get out of the position with a juicy budget at your disposal at a plus 389, plus
yep,
300, whatever, and then get yourself out of it. And in fact, you could then potentially wait for it to go a little bit lower, then buy another alt on the other side, and that's how you create a really juicy potential middle. As slim
yep,
as it is, that's makes your season.
true.
Okay, let's go on to Bucks Browns. Bucks on the road minus 3.5, reduced juice at DraftKings, over under 43.
Couple live angles I like here. But nothing I'll play per game. I mean, I think this game comes down to the run defenses and the rushing attacks. The Bucks finally got going on offense against the Seahawks, uh, basically by running at an average rate instead of an absolutely disastrous pace, which I think has been part of product of Rashad White, or it could just be like we had 1 week anomalies happen all the time. In the same way that the Bucks run defense gave up like 200 yards rushing to the Panthers, like it happens in football. Weird things happen. Um, I expect the Browns to get out to a lead. They've been terrific on both ends, scripted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which leads into some interesting live betting. If the Bucks are rushing the ball, I can like buy into the fact that like this offense will be. It's not gonna be the same as it was, but I think it'll be fine. It'll be average. Uh, I don't think Brady's the same quarterback, but he's not totally washed. Um, then again, if the run and sorry, and the key point here is that the Browns' rush defense is by far the worst in the NFL. Like their rush EPA is double as bad as the 31st best team. But like the Bucks can be shooting themselves in the foot, and it's not going to matter anyway. If the Bucks are running the ball well, then I can get on board with backing them if they're down. But if the Browns are like rushing and they've got their rushing attack going, kind of like we saw in previous, like they can extend. And like the passing game has been good. Jacoby Brissett has been really terrific. Our drive quality really likes the Browns, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
I guess to say it more succinctly, I think the Patriots are less matchup dependent, and they either shoot themselves in the foot or they don't. And I kind of want to see, are they going to be shooting themselves in the foot or not?
Yes, compared to the Browns for sure. Yeah, on a relative basis. I think one of the things that I was leaning potentially towards the Bucks on this as well was the Bucks secondary versus the Browns receivers. I think is a potential matchup edge. And then also we know that the Bucks have difficulty getting separation. I think according to like the perfectly covered plays, like Bucks are pretty down there. But the Browns are also really bad at coverage on the other side, because we know it's, you're talking about how it's an offense and defensive element.
Yeah, but
you're trying to extract and like do this reverse attribution analysis of how much is it offense, how much is it defense, and it can be a little tricky. But I think the takeaway is that the Bucks receivers don't get separation, but the Browns put you in a position to potentially get separation.
Right.
And Brady doesn't need that much separation.
It gets to kind of my handicap here. And to answer your question, the Bucks are 46% perfect coverage, which is better than it's been in previous weeks. But a lot of that is a function of like the Bucks themselves shooting themselves. Like they're going to shoot themselves in the foot with bad offense, and I don't think the matchup's going to matter. It is kind of a give and take, but I think when like you go more towards the extremes, like the Bucks, I think the matchups actually matter less. But again,
and I think this 3.5 is going to be very attractive to a lot of bettors out there that want to fade the Bucks. We want to fade the Bucks.
Absolutely.
But I don't think this is, I think this is.
I think it's a live spot. It's a team that's so matchup driven. Let's see the matchups play out. Let's get that extra information before we bet.
Yeah. I like that one. I definitely want to watch. Oh, this is an early game, actually, too. This is going to be one I will be closely monitoring. I think there's going to be a lot to learn here, too. I just want to see, too, if there is any trend reversal, growth, develop of chemistry, I don't know what, with the Bucks.
Yeah.
Cleaning up their gameplay, better offensive line play. I don't know. Just we haven't seen the Bucks put in like a good performance in quite some time.
Yeah.
Raiders plus 3.5 on the road versus Seattle, over under 47.5. Seattle coming off the little mini bye.
Yeah. I don't know.
We have not bet on the Raiders often this season. I think maybe ever. And we did last week.
We bet on them. I bet on them last week. I mean, the offense is capable. I'm not really sure what to make of the Seahawks. I think their offense is good. Their defense kind of was showing up for a 4 or 5 week stretch. I think I want to fade that. I think the line's kind of right. Seahawks are definitely the better team, but I don't really see any angle pulling me one way or another.
Yeah, I would say I probably lean Seahawks here. I think there's nothing that changed the broader macro betting perspective of how we evaluate the Raiders from last week's game. It's more just a consequence of Broncos and how that game was playing out. I mean, we saw the Raiders be able to move the ball. They just weren't scoring points, and the line blew out. And so we took advantage of it. But it wasn't even going into that game that we like love the Raiders. Oh, let's look for opportunity to get the Raiders. It just happened to be that's what happened. And there was a market dislocation to take advantage of. But they're still super banged up. And now they're coming off versus a team that is still hot, got a little humbled overseas versus the Bucks. But I think it's time to buy back on Seattle.
Yeah, I hear that. I can get behind it.
Chargers -3 at Arizona +3. I'm surprised this has not moved out farther, because this was one every once in a while I'll look at the look ahead lines and make a bet. In this case, bet the Chargers on the look ahead at -2.5. And I'm like, man, now I next look at this, it's probably gonna be like 6. And it's 3.
Yeah.
I know Kyler Murray's coming back, but there's tons of people talking about how Kyler Murray not coming back was an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
But there was people saying that, like respected bettors saying that.
Yeah. They, I think, are wrong. It's a bad take. Like, I'm the authority doesn't mean much to me if I think the substance isn't great. I'm I don't want to bet on either of these teams.
Why? I liked what I saw from the Chargers versus the Chiefs. Drive quality had the Chargers beating the Chiefs. When we were texting amidst the game, one of the reasons why I was looking to buy the Chiefs on the dip was it's like, oh, we were kind of we bet the Chargers pregame at the +5.5 and a couple other things. And it was based on the notion of having Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams goes out. Keenan Allen looked banged up and didn't look like himself, like he was fully healthy. But you said but Keenan Allen is still on the field.
Yeah.
And that is an element.
And he's on the field more.
Capable, and he showed he was capable. He made a huge catch down the field.
Yes.
And also, I saw other replays of him just being in there, being a blocker again, because the dude's 6 foot opposed to 5'9" dudes. There's a huge element there. What's not to like about the Chargers from last week?
Oh, I first off, Mike Williams is not going to play.
But that's fine.
I hear that, and look, I'm the biggest Charger stan there is. I love him. What's not to like is that the defense is awful. They're Swiss cheese.
They held the Chiefs to 17 points through 3/4 of that game.
Yeah, that's because the Chiefs were kicking field goals and punting.
They're stopping them.
I don't think that was a function of the Chargers defense playing well. Look,
the market downgraded the Chargers.
The main concern for me is I think we're finally seeing a healthy Cardinals team. Granted, I don't know if they have much to play for. They're basically out of it. But we're finally going to see I guess if Rondale Moore's hurt, we won't have the full hit, but it's a new team. It's Kyler Murray with Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, and Rondale Moore is a totally different story than Colt McCoy throwing to DeAndre Hopkins.
Again, making an argument for the Cardinals.
Yeah, look, I'm not betting the Cardinals. I'm just saying if that's what's keeping me off it.
Well, hey, you could be totally right. And obviously you make a good point. This is going to be potentially the healthiest they've been. But again, Kyler Murray's actually not that healthy. So
I think he's good. I think if he's practicing fully on Wednesday, I think that suggests that he's good. Again, interesting live angle to see if he's scrambling or not. I'm just it was the Chargers season last Sunday night. That was their shot at the division. That was the game. I'm not saying it's going to be a letdown spot next week. No, it's this was the spot where they're going to produce. And I don't know. I see this as fairly priced at 3.5.
Yeah. Again, I totally hear your points. And I'm sure at some point in time, the Cardinals will cover.
They covered for us against the Rams.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But again, that was more so
that was a Rams sell, of course.
Yeah.
It's been the most
profitable. Maybe I'm late here again because the thing is again, I am not often making a case for the Chargers. And I'm just saying what I saw versus the Chiefs was something that I wanted to upgrade the Chargers from what I saw there.
Yeah.
And again, we see the market actually downgrading the Chargers.
Yeah, that's fair. I can definitely.
And there's a lot of heat on Staley too. He needs if he wants to keep it up. They're already talking about he's gone.
I don't trust Staley. I don't trust either of these coaches. That's why I don't like it.
Yeah, but at least there's bad coaching on the other side too.
True.
All right, Rams plus 15.5 at KC. Probably not much to say about this. Bryce Perkins at quarterback.
If it's John Wolford, I'll maybe move the line a bit with the Chiefs. There's not much to say though.
Yeah, because again, I don't even know if playing a Chiefs alt is necessarily that attractive. Because, again, why? Why?
Yeah, they're not going to be putting in their A game. There's no reason to.
No, again, unless it's the Raiders, from the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The Chiefs don't really blow teams out of the water.
Yeah.
Even when they're bad.
Yeah, look, that's true. I think the argument against that is that I think it's especially true if it's John Wolford. Bryce Perkins can run the ball, and he in theory, can move the ball to score them 10 or 17 points, not 3.
Yeah.
But like the argument for the alt there or the big spread is just that the Rams themselves, regardless of matchup, are so bad at this point and so banged up that they can't score.
Yeah. If I was going to take an alt, actually, I'd probably take the Rams. Like just hoping for like a sleepwalking game by the Chiefs.
Thank you.
And the Rams definitely have a lot to play for.
I hope you're not betting on Perkins and the. Ugh.
Like Rams plus 7.5, 217. Nah, I mean, that's not right. First of all, I mean, if the Chiefs go down and score a touchdown, it's going to move out to 20.
Yeah.
So, but okay, that's better said. Is live. If I used to see any pulse out of the Rams, and the Chiefs go down, like especially if it's score, like all right, Chiefs like all right, let's push this game out, and then get comfortable, and then cruise control, like Pacheco, just run Pacheco, run like I don't know some 4th-string running back, and I see at least any pulse out of the Rams. Can Perkins? Yeah, if it is Perkins, is he moving around the court? Like, can he make a couple of decent throws? Like, I'll bet Rams plus 20. I'll bet Rams plus 20.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just. I don't know.
It's also it's like one of the late afternoon games, so there's not going to be a lot of other action. So Saints at the Niners. Saints plus 9.5. Over under 43. I mean, I like the Saints.
Conviction. Why?
I just think, I mean, this is like 3 points off. I feel like it should be like 6.5. It should be under a touchdown.
I agree with you. There's always been a Shanahan tax. Like one of my favorite, I guess, little bits is like, I think the playoff run, where like Raheem Mostert was running for 200 yards, is just like stamped into everyone's brain. That like Kyle Shanahan is this run genius. Where do you think they rank in rush EPA?
Well, since you're leading the witness.
Yeah, but I could be leading the witness in multiple.
Outside the top 10.
They're 19th.
Mm-hmm.
They're 19th. Man, I actually want to check now last year where they were. All right, let's take a guess where they were last year. And I'm not leading you because I have no idea where it's going to say.
I think they were probably still outside the top 10.
They were 9th. Negative EPA, for what it's worth. Like the Galaxy brand take that like Kyle Shanahan is this run genius, I think has like everything to do with a couple of games that are sticking in people's minds.
Yeah, high profile.
Plays way too conservative. I think he does a great job getting the ball to his receivers in space, and he has terrific yak guys, and the personnel fits the scheme wonderfully, and they can be good. I just like they run the ball too much, and they're generally way too conservative, and that's going to allow teams to stay in games. I want to see how healthy the D line is. They were missing a couple pieces against the Cardinals, and Andy Dalton, as we've shown, very sensitive to pressure.
Yeah.
If he's got clean pockets, though, he can move the ball. Chris Olave is a legit number 1 receiver that you can get open. He's a beast. That I think they can totally stick around. And I like I think it's a rarity, actually, the type of game we saw Monday night. Which, by the way, looks a little different if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get called for a taunting penalty. Like the game could be tied at halftime. I don't see. There's a lot of love, and I don't think that the Niners are the type of team I'm comfortable betting on to extend. Especially like the Saints' run defense has been good for 4 years now.
Yeah, and also this is the first week that I feel like I've seen uniform love for the Niners, and I just, I mean. Though there's still a lot of parity in this league, and I don't think the Niners are in an echelon of Bills, Chiefs. And again, there's always like matchup specific things, so you could say like if they play the Eagles, so if they would lose the Eagles, then they're worse than the Eagles. Like, again, that's matchup dependent type argument. But I would like on average rather bet on the Eagles than the Niners.
Does
So
put us
that's
in
like,
the market, which I love.
yeah. Um,
I'm
all right,
curious.
Packers 6.5. Reduced juice at the aforementioned Philadelphia Eagles over under 46.5. Sunday Night Football. I mean, if the Packers are still as bad as drive quality says that they are, which is 27th, clear market low. Market consensus ranking is 12th. The next best closest to the drive quality ranking is 17th by 538. If that's right, then I mean this is Eagles all day.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Eagles all day anyway.
So here's the case against that, and why I'm holding off pregame. Right, what's the script to beat the Eagles? We've seen 3 weeks
Yeah,
now.
run against them. Yeah,
Run against them, play slow.
and the Packers want to do that.
That's exactly what the Packers want to do. And I think the key stat is the rushing success rate, right? Because like EPA very valuable in understanding the run game as a whole. But if the game plan is rush successfully, often stack 5-yard runs against each other, Packers are the 4th in rush EPA. I think we want to see, are they executing? First of all, are they trying this game plan? Which in theory they should, and they've been doing it regardless of the matchup. So you'd think it stays, but who knows? And 2, like, are they succeeding at all? Because I do think the Packers can play exactly that style of game, which is the recipe to beat the Eagles. But then again, like they've been bad, and like fundamentals matter. And like if the Eagles jump out to a lead and they play from ahead, which is where they've been at their best, I want no part of the Packers.
Yeah, I can see that. This is definitely probably a game that's probably a little bit more better suited to bet live, see how it's playing out. And if that kind of same script does happen, again, Eagles get 2 touchdown lead at some point early in the first half, and the Packers don't abandon the run game, so want to continue to push that script, kind of like they did versus the Bills, then I would definitely be a buyer of the Packers plus double digits in a similar type scenario.
Yeah.
Also, if this total blows out due to some early scoring, I would definitely like under.
That's the other thing with the Packers is if they execute that game plan, the under is firmly in total.
Yeah.
Because they're going to run 8-9 minute drives.
Yeah.
And by the way, it wouldn't be surprising to see the Eagles try and run on the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of try and milk the clock like the Titans did last week.
Yeah. All right, Monday Night Football, the closer, Steelers plus 2.5 at Matt Ryan and the Colts coming off an impressive game versus the Eagles. You kicked off our game trade live betting session, having a feeling in your stomach, some Sunday morning clarity that the Colts were going to put in a tough game and probably slow down the Eagles, disrupt kind of the Eagles' intended game script for that game. That's exactly what happened. Colts went all the way out to, I think, like 75% win probability for that game. Came down to the final last drive for the Eagles. We had some Eagles exposure that we took late in that game. We didn't chase early, which was good. And it's pretty much exactly due to your premonition right off the bat, was to stay patient on that game. And so we got some attractive Eagles exposure, and they were able to bring it home and cash some tickets. Is there any signal in that performance from the Colts?
Maybe. I don't think so. Again, our drive quality scoreboard has the Eagles winning this game firmly. I think the signal is they're definitely better than Sam Ehlinger Colts. But I still don't think they're a particularly good team. And the Steelers are, I think, a little more plucky than I would have given them credit for earlier on. Meaning I really thought Kenny Pickett was, like, really bad at this stage, but again, rookie quarterbacks improve. This happens
Yep.
all the time, and, like, George Pickens
And
can
he's
get open.
developing, yeah, some
They're
nice
playing
chemistry with
him, and,
Pickett.
like, if he's getting open downfield and Pickett's getting him the ball, like, they'll be able to score. Um, because if that happens once or twice a game, that's a drive. So, like, that's a drive or two that ends in touchdowns. That they're plucky enough that I want to kind of not touch this game. And like TJ Watt can really take advantage of a bad Colts offensive line. Matt Ryan's been taking tons and tons of sacks this year. That's been the Achilles heel all along. Again, something I've been saying from week one. Two bad teams.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
And drive quality says that. So we got, totally right up your alley on the Steelers, because drive quality has Steelers ranked 32nd, dead last.
Yeah.
And the Colts 28th.
Yep.
So market lows on both those teams. Actually, no. Football Outsiders is actually lower than us on the Colts at 29th. Yeah, no, I would say I really like taking Steelers at home, but this is now on the road. Probably like, the Colts -2.5. Again, they stifled the Eagles for still 3/4 of that game. Just couldn't put the nail in the coffin, but they were, very close. Even though drive quality again says that they definitively lost, it was still, again, they hung tough still.
Yep.
This total also looks high.
I was gonna say the alt under definitely in play for two bad offenses, and I think a Pittsburgh defense that can take advantage of the Colts, and the Colts defense is legit good.
Yep. All right, that closes our NFL Week 12 betting market outlook. Thanks everyone for listening and for joining. We'll be live trading again on Sunday. Game Trade, come join us, live bet with us, share some ideas, provide constructive criticism. We love, brainstorming as it's all going on. Again, the bigger kind of eyes across the board, I think the better. Definitely throwing out trade ideas, having us capitalize on them.
Yeah.
Tons of fun.
When Arjun came through last week with Josh Jacobs, we're getting this week in, week out.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. We'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And that's closing bell.